Your excessive goodness comes at a steep price. Remember when that colleague dumped their work on you, knowing you wouldn't say no? Think about the last time you were taken advantage of. Did it happen because you were too trusting, too available, too willing to help? The world doesn't reward pure kindness. It rewards those who understand how to balance kindness with power. Today, I'm going to show you how to be good without being weak. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Think about the last time someone took your kindness and used it against you. Maybe it was a coworker who let you handle their assignments while they took credit for the work. Or that friend who only calls when they need something. Or the partner who crosses your boundaries because they know you'll forgive them anyway. Did you see it coming? Probably not, and that's the problem. Most of us were taught that being good is enough to succeed in life. Be honest, work hard, help others, and good things will come to you. This message sounds nice, but it creates a dangerous blind spot. While you're busy being good, others are busy figuring out how to use your goodness for their benefit. This isn't paranoia, it's reality. These everyday betrayals highlight a common truth. Your goodness becomes a trap when others recognize it as a weakness they can exploit. The person who always says yes becomes the office doormat. The friend who never complains becomes the emotional dumping ground. The partner who always forgives becomes the one who's always hurt. Your open door becomes a gateway for exploitation. Let's be clear about something. The world doesn't select for moral rigidity. It selects for adaptability. Those who succeed understand how to read situations and adjust their behavior accordingly. They know when kindness serves them and when it doesn't. They're not locked into a single way of responding to every situation. Meanwhile, you might be stuck following the same moral code regardless of context, making your behavior predictable and, therefore, exploitable. Research shows that consistently kind people without boundaries are 3 times more likely to be targets of manipulation. Why? Because predictable behavior creates opportunities for others. If I know you'll always say yes, why would I hesitate to ask? If I know you'll always forgive, why would I worry about hurting you? Your goodness without limits becomes a resource others feel entitled to use. The worst part? Your desire to be seen as good often prevents you from seeing reality. You ignore red flags because you want to believe in people. You dismiss your intuition when it tells you something is wrong. You rationalize others' selfish behavior because confronting it would force you to be unkind. You become complicit in your own exploitation. This trap exists in every area of life. In relationships, you become the one who always compromises. At work, you're the reliable one who picks up everyone's slack. In your family, you're the peacekeeper who absorbs tension. Each role seems noble until you realize it's costing you respect, advancement, boundaries, and reciprocity. The stakes are high. This pattern leads to being overlooked and used. It's watching less qualified but more assertive people get promotions while you're passed over. It's settling for relationships where you give everything and receive little in return. It's reaching middle age and wondering why your goodness never translated into the success and respect you were promised. The truth is that most people operate from self-interest first and morality second. This doesn't make them evil, it makes them human. While you're thinking about helping others, they're thinking about helping themselves. This creates an imbalance where your needs always come last. If someone knows there are no consequences for taking advantage of you, why wouldn't they? You've created a situation where using you is the rational choice. But there's another way to be good without being naive. You don't have to choose between being kind and being respected. The answer isn't to abandon your values, it's to apply them more strategically. It starts with understanding what Machiavelli really meant. His writings were about understanding human nature as it actually is, not as we wish it to be. He saw clearly what many good people refuse to see, that virtue without power becomes vulnerability, and that kindness without boundaries invites abuse. What if you could remain true to your values while ensuring others couldn't exploit them? The key is learning how to balance your natural kindness with strategic boundaries. And that's exactly what we'll explore next. Have you noticed how the most helpful people often get the least respect? This isn't an accident. The person everyone counts on to stay late at work, the friend who's always available for emotional support, the family member who never says no to a favor, these people share something in common. Despite their kindness, they're often the most overlooked, undervalued, and disrespected. There's a painful truth here that nobody talks about. Society praises kindness in public but rewards those who withhold it. We tell children to be generous, but then promote those who set firm boundaries. This contradiction creates a trap for genuinely good people. You follow the rules you were taught, only to discover the game rewards players who break them strategically. Every time you say yes when you want to say no, you pay an invisible tax on your worth. This tax accumulates in how others perceive you. Your value diminishes because you're not requiring anything in return. You teach others that your time and goodwill are free, and humans rarely value what comes without cost. Consider Maria, who regularly stays late to help colleagues finish their projects. Initially appreciated, her teammates now simply expect her availability, rarely acknowledging her sacrifice. This devaluation happens through everyday moments that seem minor in isolation, but form a damaging pattern. The coworker who dumps work on you because you're so good at it. The friend who only calls when they need something. The relative who assumes you'll babysit without notice because you never mind helping. Your constant availability makes you common, and what's common holds little value. We don't treasure air because it's always there or appreciate sunshine until after days of rain. The same applies to relationships. When you're always accommodating, you become a background feature rather than a valued presence. The human mind values scarcity. Your unlimited kindness becomes an abundant resource that others feel entitled to use. Without scarcity, there's no incentive for appreciation. Without boundaries, there's no framework for respect. The occasional helper receives more gratitude than the person who's available 24/7. This hidden cost leads directly to a need for strategic boundaries. When you're too accommodating, you train others to see you as a tool for their needs, rather than a person with your own requirements. This happens because humans adapt to established dynamics. If you signal that your purpose is serving others' needs, people accept that framework and stop considering what you might need. The pattern becomes self-reinforcing. The more you give without limits, the less others feel obligated to reciprocate. Research on compassion fatigue shows that constant exposure to others' needs depletes emotional resources, leaving you empty while others walk away full. This imbalance affects not just how others treat you, but how you view yourself. Over time, your identity becomes tied to serving and helping. When your worth depends on usefulness to others, your self-esteem relies on external validation that grows increasingly difficult to earn. You unknowingly invite disrespect by being predictably kind without establishing consequences. When there's no penalty for taking advantage, why would anyone stop? You've created a situation where the rational choice is to keep taking. The solution is becoming strategic about your kindness. This means distributing your goodness thoughtfully, recognizing that boundaryless giving correlates with decreased respect. Understanding that respect often precedes love, not vice versa. The key is being selectively generous rather than universally available. To make your kindness meaningful, it must have conditions. To earn respect while remaining good, learn the art of strategic giving, which starts with understanding what Machiavelli really meant about power and virtue. What if Machiavelli wasn't teaching people to be evil, but rather showing them how to survive in a world that isn't always good? The name Machiavelli has become shorthand for manipulation and cruelty. We call someone Machiavellian when we think they're cunning and willing to deceive others. But this popular understanding misses what Machiavelli was really trying to tell us. Machiavelli offered wisdom on understanding human nature as it actually exists, not as we wish it to be. He provided realistic guidance for leaders, not encouragement toward evil. He recognized what many good people refuse to see. Humans don't always operate according to their highest values. His famous quote, "It is better to be feared than loved," is widely misunderstood. The full passage reveals a practical observation about human psychology. People respond more reliably to the fear of consequences than to expressions of affection. Respect must precede affection. People might profess love, but without respect, that sentiment means little and won't prevent betrayal when their interests are at stake. The context of Renaissance Italy reveals why Machiavelli developed these insights. In Florence alone, between 1434 and 1494, the Medici family faced multiple coup attempts and were eventually exiled. When they returned to power in 1512, Machiavelli himself was imprisoned and tortured. His writing emerged from witnessing firsthand how quickly alliances shifted when power changed hands. His work wasn't advocating tyranny. It was a survival manual for navigating treacherous political landscapes. Think about your own experiences. Have you ever trusted someone who repeatedly disrespected your boundaries? Perhaps a friend who borrowed money without repaying, or a colleague who took credit for your work. Initially, you might have excused their behavior, attributing it to misunderstanding rather than self-interest. But Machiavelli would recognize this pattern immediately. People will act in their self-interest when there are no consequences. Modern psychology confirms Machiavelli's observations. Studies show that relationships with clear boundaries create healthier dynamics than those with unlimited giving. When you establish limits, you aren't being selfish. You're creating conditions for genuine respect. Without boundaries, relationships become unbalanced. One person gives while the other takes, eventually breeding resentment on both sides. Consider this scenario. A manager consistently accommodates an underperforming team member, taking on their work and making excuses for them. Rather than improving performance, the employee becomes increasingly dependent and entitled. The manager's unchecked kindness actually prevents growth and undermines team morale. A Machiavellian approach would establish clear expectations and consequences, ultimately benefiting everyone. Machiavelli's real lesson isn't about manipulating others, but understanding human interaction so others can't manipulate you. It's about seeing reality clearly rather than what you wish existed. It's recognizing that your goodness needs protection to survive in a world that doesn't always reward virtue. Intelligent kindness offers this protection. It's strategic goodness with clear boundaries that demands respect first. It means being kind from strength rather than weakness. It means saying, "I choose to be good because it aligns with my values, not because I fear standing up for myself." Goodness without wisdom becomes weakness. Kindness without boundaries becomes exploitation. Giving without discernment becomes depletion. The most effective good people are strategically kind, knowing when to give and when to withhold, how to set boundaries without cruelty, how to remain virtuous without becoming victimized. This balance between power and kindness introduces us to our next challenge, the power paradox, where we'll see how Machiavelli's insights can help us navigate the corrupting influences of success without losing our ethical foundation. Why do we often see the kindest people at the bottom of hierarchies while more difficult personalities rise to the top? Look around your workplace, school, or family dynamics. In almost every group, the most agreeable people rarely hold the most power. This isn't a coincidence. It's a pattern that reveals something important about human nature. There's a strange paradox in human social structures. We claim to value kindness, compassion, and cooperation. We teach children to share and be nice. We praise selflessness in our cultural stories. Yet in practice, we consistently reward those who project strength, confidence, and assertiveness. The person who speaks loudly in meetings gets promoted over the quiet contributor. The decisive leader gains followers, while the thoughtful one gets overlooked. The assertive negotiator wins concessions while the accommodating one gives them away. Think of kindness without boundaries as a leaking bucket. No matter how much goodwill you pour in, it drains away because others instinctively recognize they can take without consequences. Your generosity becomes an expected resource rather than a respected choice. The uncomfortable truth is that your brain is wired to respect power first and kindness second. This isn't a personal failing or a cultural problem. It's an evolutionary survival mechanism. For most of human history, survival depended on associating with the powerful. Being close to strength meant protection, resources, and better chances of survival. This instinct remains embedded in your psychology even when you're not consciously aware of it. Developmental psychologists have observed this pattern even in young children. By age 3, children already follow confident, assertive peers over nice but uncertain ones, well before cultural conditioning takes hold. This suggests our response to power is hardwired rather than learned. When you appear weak, you trigger one of two instinctual responses in others: protection or exploitation. Consider times when your generosity was taken advantage of, or when you felt compelled to help someone who seemed vulnerable. Neither response involves genuine respect or equal treatment. The world's response to pure goodness without strength is either pity or predation. In professional settings, assertiveness typically surpasses agreeableness in advancement opportunities. Assertiveness signals the ability to make tough decisions and project authority, qualities seen as essential for leadership. While kindness is valued, it can be perceived as weakness if not balanced with clear boundaries. Think about the leaders you truly respect. They combine compassion with strength, kindness with boundaries, softness with occasional firmness. The most effective leaders command respect rather than invite exploitation. They know when to listen and when to decide, when to accommodate and when to stand firm.